Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
No,
kind of
I
cold
told you I was
where
complaining about the 30s and here in Florida, like you have it, not us.
yeah, man, it's the kind of thing where I drive Amelia to daycare in the morning, and I got to go turn on the car like 5 minutes before you get in, because it's got to it's got to melt all the ice on all the windows, but then the car itself is just so frozen that if you get in, it's just so cold. So you got to let the heating, and it takes the heating like 5 minutes to kick in when it's that cold too. It doesn't kick in right away. So
Yeah, so you
you
gotta
got to
All right.
preheat
defrost
the
the
car.
car.
Yeah, defrost, preheat the car. Exactly. Not like
Looking,
Boyd over here. He looks like he's in the tropical
Look at that. Yeah,
beer paradise
I
over
love
there.
it.
is the frame
Yeah.
straight for me, or should I tilt the camera a little
Yep.
bit? It's good enough?
Yep. It's straight.
Cool. I'm a bit of a perfectionist with things like that. As I know you two are too.
Yeah, we try.
We try.
Yeah.
We try.
Well, you've come a
I
long
wonder
way
'cause-
after watching that video last night. I was watching where you rewatched one of your early videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was such a good video. That was
That
such
was-
a good idea for a video.
Oh man, I'm happy you appreciate that. Yeah, man. So yeah, -20. It's been brutal.
-20.
Well, hey.
Yeah, Celsius. Yeah, -20. It's been
Oh my God.
Canada. Canada gets cold.
Yeah.
See, he doesn't need a refrigerator for his beers. He just
Yeah.
No,
puts them outside.
No, you're right.
Put
No,
them outside. Yeah.
I put them in my garage. I have my garage that's like not heated or anything, and I just keep my beers in there, and it's like a natural fridge. It's perfect. Yeah, man.
right.
It's funny you brought up that video. We thought about, because we're always trying to think about different things that you can do, because we're kind of limited being remote, in different countries and doing this together.
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of every episode just being, okay, we're in our set, we're doing a review, we're doing the same thing, we always try and think of little things we can throw in that switch it up a little bit. And
Yeah.
we thought of that because it's been so many years, well, 4 years, not so many years, but 4 years since we started doing it, and things have just changed so much, like so
Yep.
drastically. Like we talked about in that video, everything from like not using a mic to using a mic to like how we
or even
edit
like your microphone was so far away and it's all echoey.
Yeah, man, it was so ridiculous. I don't know what I was thinking. Just it was on like the other side of the like, because it was on a stand. So I got this microphone that was on this like crank stand where you screw it to like a bookshelf or something. There's like a clamp, and then it was on like it had this long extendable arm. And so I had it like on a bookshelf that was across from me, and then when it was fully extended, it was still like 6, 7. Like it was a couple of feet away from me, and it was just picking up just all, like I had the air conditioner on. It was just picking up everything in the room, and the voice was the last thing it was picking up.
Yeah. It was so funny. Good video.
Yeah, man. No, thanks,
Yeah,
man. Happy
thanks,
appreciate it.
man.
Yeah, it's cool. I was happy to find your channel because like we were talking about how like we've talked to a lot of different beer YouTubers and stuff, and beer YouTubers are always characters, right? Everybody we've talked to, they're always interesting dudes. They're always like have a story to tell.
Yeah.
And so I found your channel, and I thought yours was really cool because you have like a different spin to it. Even though I think the first one I saw was did you go to a beach and you're like, I'm going to review whatever beer I find like a empty bottle of on the beach?
Yeah. Picking up the litter, and whichever one I find the most litter of is the one I go and buy and review. Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good idea.
Yeah, just trying to do different things. Yeah. Hey, but first of all, can I just say thank you so much for having me on?
Of course, man. Of course.
Because
it's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, like I know you've had like Simon from Real Ale Craft Beer, Dara, the ex-Guinness guru, that bloke from the Craft Beer channel. And like these are all guys that I've been watching for years. I take a lot of inspiration from. So when you asked me on, given how small my channel is, it was I'm very appreciative. So thank you.
We say thank you that you accepted to come. Like we always say, like, this is the pub, the Beer Brackets pub, and and we love having people that love talking about beer. So thank you for taking us up on the invite, and we're actually very, very excited to talk to you today and
cool
and get to know you.
Awesome. Same here. Right back at you.
It's funny. We it feels like we're not a big channel by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, like it felt like just yesterday that we were starting off, and you have like that. You start uploading videos, you get like 20 subscribers. All your friends subscribe, people right away, right? So you get that little burst of like 20, 25, 30. And then like people start finding it through algorithms and searches, and then it starts trickling up. You hit 100, you're really excited. 200 feels like this even bigger milestone because you doubled it. And then And it's just, I remember we posted a video when we hit 300 subscribers because we were so happy.
Yeah.
And I remember like looking at you, and it's like, it's such, I don't know how you feel about it. I guess that's going to be my first question for you, but like, it's such a thing because it seems like in the world of YouTube, it seems like not a lot, 300 subscribers, but you think if you picture 300 people in a room, like all watching one of your videos at the same time, like that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Right?
It's a lot. Yeah. No, I feel the same. It's I mean, I think I'm up to 460 right now.
That's
but
awesome,
every
man.
time
Congrats.
you crack that next 100,
Nice.
it's a good feeling. But
it is, right?
Well, I find just like the view count. I think my best videos when I did the non-alcoholic Guinness versus the real Guinness, and that's got like 9,000 views, and that's something I would have never expected in the first year. But I guess Guinness content does well. But yeah, just the thought of 9,000 people viewing that video is just a bit like, wow, that's that's weird, but exciting.
Guinness content does do well. It really does.
Oh, you guys have come a long way since I've started following you. I think I subscribed maybe 6 months ago. I feel like you had 3,000 subscribers then, and now it's up to almost 6. It's
yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, we had a nice little this past year we had some nice growth, which was cool. Like we've been lucky. I don't know. We've had some videos that kind of hit the algorithm in YouTube. And so like our most viewed video, speaking of Guinness, is how to pour bottled Guinness, because there's actually a funny story. I'll let you, I've been talking, I'll let you tell the story on that one, but it's a funny story.
Well, yeah, it's a very funny story because one of I think the third video that we filmed was like the Guinness review in the VS. And then, we did the Ken versus bottle, right? Like we had done like the Heineken and so on. So we poured them, both the bottle and the can, out, right? And then a little bit later, we got lucky enough to get in contact with the head of quality from Guinness, Dave Gilson, and he accepted to come on the channel. That was actually our first interview. So we were like very super nervous and etc. We had
former
prepared
master
the whole
brewer
script.
Guinness, like,
yeah,
crazy.
So we had prepared all the questions, went through the whole thing. And then I can't remember exactly how we got into it, but we were talking about the bottle Guinness, and he pointed out how actually the bottle Guinness, you're supposed to drink straight out of the bottle. It says it right here on the bottle. Sure enough, it says it on the bottle, right? So we had
who reads the instructions on their beer, right?
yeah.
Nobody does, right?
Well, just get stuck into it.
Yeah, right. So we were talking after that, like one day, I said, well, why do we have the Guinness at the house? Because we both like it. So I said, why don't we just film a short episode, like 5 minutes, where we kind of almost like correct what we said, right? And we said like, hey, like this is actually the right way to do it, right? For whatever reason, got picked up, and that's to this day is one of the biggest one that we. So one of the first one, by the way, like I think we filmed it in the first 6 months for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was an interesting one.
Yeah, awesome. And just on that, I like to hard pour my cans of Guinness. I think you were
it's
doing
the
that,
best
Joe.
way, I think.
When I watch that video,
I think it is.
For sure. The harder, the better, I say.
Yeah, because you get like a really thick, creamy head on it when you do a hard pour, I find. Yeah, I think when you do the slow pour, like overall, it's smoother. You don't have any bubbles in the head, and I think it's aesthetically a little bit more pleasing. But I think when you do that hard pour, like even I thought it turned out really good in the video, and I was proud of it because it had like this thick, like super creamy head on it, which I love on a Guinness. And for me, it's all about the hard pour, at least with Guinness.
For sure. Yeah. It feels so wrong the first time you do it, but then
it does.
Yeah, it's like, this is not right.
You feel a little dirty.
But then when it all settles, exactly. When it all settles, you're like, this is it. This is it.
That's right. I love that you mentioned that.
We've been without a beer for too long, so
hey, let's crack a beer.
The tradition here is that the guest always starts. So what's your first beer you're having here? What are you opening your beer brackets with, boy?
So first of all, when you said bring 2 beers on the show, this was the hardest.
I brought 6.
This is the hardest decision. Yeah, well, I've got about 20 in my beer fridge. We can go all day. But it was the hardest decision. It's been on my mind ever since you said it. I think I've done a good selection. So the first one, I have here the Ginderbein Brewing Pilsner.
Oh, Pilsner with
nice.
So I've also got their beer glass that I bought at the brewery.
Nice.
So just quickly, a little bit about this beer. So
tell us.
Jindabyne is a small country town about 5 hours southwest of Sydney inland. That's where I was last week for a camping trip. And nice. It's basically at the base of a national park where in the winter it's all ski resorts. I love going down there, been going down there my whole life. And they got a brewery down there, an independent brewer. It sits in this industrial area overlooking this beautiful lake, Lake Jindabyne. It is just one of the best places to have a beer. And the Pilsner is absolutely outstanding. So that is my first beer.
I love a good Pilsner.
Yeah. Pilsner is probably my favorite style. And this one, they've just honestly nailed it. So that's my beer of choice for my first beer.
I've told Alessandro this a couple of times. I've discovered some really amazing Pilsners in my life, and I agree with you. I think like a really good Pilsner might be my favorite style of beer. And I'm always on the quest to find like the next great sort of craft Pilsner. So I'm always like, whenever I'm in the store here and I see like our bottle shops around here and I see like craft Pilsners, I'm always trying new ones. But most of the ones I try are kind of disappointing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And like the problem with craft beers is like you're paying that extra premium because it's a craft beer. So it's like you put in the extra couple of dollars, you try something, not the best. You feel like, I could have just gotten like something cheap that would have been just as good. It's experimenting's hard.
For sure, yeah.
So it's funny, we were discussing, but about a similar topic, but I decided to bring in, because I had a question, the Guinness Extra Stout, which
such a good beer.
It's not quite the one. And I don't know if you've had it, and if you have, I'm curious about, because it seems to be different depending on what country you're in. Like I know Joe, when he had a chance to get it, like it was a slightly different version than the one I have. So I thought that could be a good conversation piece.
The Canadian brewed extra stout.
We'll crack it. We'll crack it first, but that is a great conversation piece, and we will start there. I've got a few things to say about that one.
Perfect.
All good things.
That's awesome.
But Joe, what do you got? Great choice, Alessandro.
Thank you.
I'm actually drinking a good friend of mine that I grew up with, Dave. Dave, if you're watching, cheers. He makes beer. And so I've tried some of his beers. I think one of his beers on the channel before, and we did one of our lives maybe like 2 years ago with Nate, Alessandro. But he brought me a beer that he made. So it's like no label, just he makes them in his garage with a couple of friends. And this is a grisette that he made.
Grisette?
And it's funny, we've never talked about.
Yeah,
it's like it's a variation of a saison. It's basically a saison, but I think what makes it a grisette is just the hops that are used, but stylistically it's basically a saison. Like it's exactly the same. Yeah. And so it's something we've never talked about on the channel before, and homemade by a good buddy of mine, Dave. I'm excited to try it. He makes good beer. They make good stuff, so I'm excited to try it.
It's so much better coming from a friend like that, isn't it?
I know, right?
Yeah. That's a great choice as well, Joe.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome.
Ooh, yeah, I have. I'm lucky enough. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I used to have a guy that I worked with who made his own beer, and he set up taps in his house and his kitchen. So he outfitted the island in his kitchen to have like 2 kegs underneath with taps going up, and he would rotate out the kegs based on what he brewed that month. And he
that's
always
so cool.
had like a flow of his homemade beer. I know, I was so jealous.
That's so cool. Yeah, when I was down at Jindabyne last week, I went to one of the pubs down there, and they have this Pilsner on tap, the one I'm drinking now. And one of the bartenders, she told me her boyfriend has basically set up at their house a home bar, and he's built the tap systems, and he just buys the kegs of Pilsner straight from the brewery and sets it up at home.
Oh, nice. That's amazing.
I was just like, I would love your boyfriend. My type of guy.
Can I date your boyfriend, please?
Yeah.
I think that's every beer lover's dream is to have a keg at home, or possibly at least two, so you can rotate. Like 3 are even better.
You know what? That we'll talk about the extra stout first, but that'll lead me to my second question that I have for Boyd. But cheers, buddy. So good to have you on, man. Thanks for joining us, Boyd.
So good to be here. Cheers. Actually, it feels a bit surreal given now I've been watching a lot of your content for the last 6 months.
That's always like, hey, I've been watching your videos too regularly, man. It's always that's the fun thing about doing this, like talking to people who you've been watching on YouTube.
Yeah. Also, I just got to say, I don't know how you guys feel about it. When you drink a beer out of its actual beer glass with its labeling, I think it's just so much better.
100%.
Adds to the
nice.
to just build off that point, like so much. I'm curious what you think about this, because I know we have our opinions on this. But so much of beer is about sort of like the ceremony around it, right? Like the environment you're in, the people you're with, the glassware factors into it, your mood, time of day. There's all these things, right? But the ceremony of it, like it has, and the glass is part of it, like having like the properly branded glass and thinking like cracking open the bottle, pouring into the branded glass. Like it adds to that whole experience, so which not a lot of other alcohols have. In that same way, you know, like the ceremony that beer has.
For sure. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, we call it sometimes on the channel, we refer to it as the intangibles, because it's all those factors that come in that people don't necessarily always pay attention to. And it's difficult because, you know, they're just there, right? But but to Joy's point, it's just like helps and sometimes it also determines if you like or don't like a beer, right? Like, depending on what's going on. But
absolutely. And sometimes I think sometimes the setting of a certain beer would be so good, and you think that was one of the best beers I've ever had, and then you go buy a bottle of it somewhere and take it home and drink it by yourself, and it's like, it's not that good. And maybe that's right. It's that setting that you're in that just played a big part to it.
It is.
Yeah. Oh man, 100%. Also, some beers are just so much better on tap too. So sometimes you'll have it in a bar or something, and it's incredible, and you get a can of it, and you're like, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the same, right?
Yeah.
That's a shame when that happens. It's always so disappointing.
Such a letdown.
Yeah. All right. So, what'd you have to say about the extra stout?
Yeah. So I was going to say, we get one here in Australia. It's brewed under license here in Australia, and I think it is bloody beautiful. Really. I haven't had it in a while, but there was probably a good 3-month period over winter last year where, if we're going to talk about this beautiful concept that you guys have created, the beer brackets, it was it was my ending beer.
Too kind.
If I'm going to have some beers at home, it was always my ending beer.
Yeah.
The closing beer,
closing bracket.
Yeah, it was like I'd only have one. It was after all my pilsners or whatever. I'm like, I am ending on the Guinness Extra Stout because it's just strong and rich and just the perfect closing beer.
Wow, that's very nice of you to say that. That's a very nice compliment, a very nice way to describe Guinness Extra Stout, I think.
I also got to say, you're the first person we've had on that's understood the beer brackets concept. I got to say, because
I would also agree.
Yeah, we described it to like Dara Curran, like the Guinness guru, and he was so confused. He was like, "What? So you have like." What?
Yeah, I remember. I think I watched all his episodes recently. And I remember when he was explaining it, and like, he just wasn't getting it.
He was so confused. Yeah, it's totally fine, but so funny.
Yeah.
And who else? There was somebody. I don't know if it was Johnny from Craft Beer Channel, but and Simon, when we explained it, he was just like, I think he was already kind of drunk. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, that's cool." He was I don't even think he was kind of processing it. He was just
yeah. That was a great episode with Simon. I really, really love his work.
I thought so too. It was a good talk.
Yeah, he's the type of guy you could listen to talk about beer all day. I mean, same as you two guys. It was the perfect episode, the three of you together.
Oh, that's so nice, man.
I
agree with you. I love his channel. There's something about him. Like, there's so many beer review channels out there, but there's something about him and the way, and obviously because he's got like 80-something thousand subscribers and every video gets thousands of views. So like, it's other people feel the same way, but there's something about just the way he talks about beer that I find so fascinating.
I know.
And I could just listen anytime he posts every day. And I think I watch one of his videos a day. Like every video he posts, I watch pretty much at some point.
Yeah.
And he's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it when he's like, you've got the sweetness from the malts over here. You got the bitterness from the hops over here. And he's doing all these hand movements. And it's just like, oh, this is just so good.
I know.
And he's so natural at it.
Definitely, he is. Yeah, it's and that in during the talk we had with him, it was just like funny because we immediately, I think, felt on the same beer wavelength as we call it, in the sense that, you know, it just went back and forth, and kind of like what's happening right now. Like, I mean, we this is the first time we meet, right? Like we spent some time with each other watching videos, but not really at the same time, right? Like, so it's always fascinating, and latching on to that, I just wanted to compliment you on your style. Like Joe said, I think it's very unique. It's very different than anything else I've seen. And I like the way you approach your videos in the sense that you really putting yourself out there, and you're always telling a story. You're bringing the viewer through a little journey through every single video. And I think that's well done. And also probably also it took like a while to perfect, to understand like how to do it, because I can't imagine just by yourself, like in front of the camera, it can be daunting for a lot of people. And I think you're doing it great. So
thank you.
Really compliment to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you very much. We'll talk more about that as well. But just before I forget, the whole concept of the beer brackets, right? Yeah, it's amazing because I've subconsciously had these beer bracket thoughts in my life.
What?
Probably
really
going through my mid-20s to now, definitely. Where, you know, especially when you're on a holiday, right? You're thinking in the day, like, what is going to be my first beer today? And it's a very important question you got to ask yourself.
He gets it. Oh my God, that's what he gets it. He's like kindred beer spirit. I can't believe this.
During the night when you're at dinner or whatever, you're starting to think, what am I going to end on? What is going to be the closing beer? So when I heard the concept, I was like, I've been subconsciously doing that for the last 10 years. It's great.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many beer YouTubers just don't get it. or they never, at least they never thought about it before. So when we explain it, they're like, oh, okay. But they've never gone through that process in their mind on their own before. It's so amazing to hear you say that, because we came up with this because I think anybody watching this channel's probably heard us tell the story a million times, but we were both traveling in Ireland, and we were both there for work conferences, and we met at Temple Bar, which is like this famous pub in Dublin.
Yeah.
And we were both there having a pint of Guinness, and there was this random guy who was like wasted. He was off his mind, hammered. And he was there it was around Christmas time, and he was there for a work Christmas party. And there was kind of a live band playing in the pub. And Alessandro and I were both there alone, just having a pint of Guinness on our own, watching the band. And this guy kind of like came and put his arms around both of us. Said, hey, what's your name? Who are you? And then it's all right. So we just, the three of us kind of like had a drink. He's like, oh, you guys are both from out of town. That's great. Blah, blah, blah. And he kept talking. And so that's how we met. And then we were both there for another couple of days, and we kept in touch, and we did like the Jameson whiskey tour together the next day and stuff like that.
Nice.
So spend time, but we kept in touch. And then, so we just kept meeting each other in different countries, different places, like once, twice a year, we'd fly and hang out and spend a couple of days. And I think when we came up with the beer bracket concept, was that in Italy? I think it was right?
Coming back. We were coming back from, we went to Rome, remember, for 24 hours because you wanted to see Rome. So we went
we did a quick 24 hours in Rome. It was sloppy.
We had a limited time. And on the way back, we were saying, oh, okay, like this is going to be, I think we were talking about the closing beer, right? Like, this is closing out the 24 hours. And that's kind of said, wait,
that's
but
right.
it makes sense like to have an opening and closing, and then we kind of like elaborate from there and came up with a concept,
because we had sort of like branded that 24 hours in Rome, so it's like the last beer of the 24 hours at the airport. That's
it's
right.
So cool.
And that's okay, so it's what beer are we like ending with, and there was like, oh, it's like closing, it's like the closing brackets, like the opening and closing bracket. Then it was born.
It's so
and then
good.
it became this sort of like ceremonial thing that we always did after that.
So good. It's such a good story, the way you two guys met. I think it's awesome.
It's kind of
really really cool. And the fact that you stayed in touch, and now look what you created 4 years into a cracking YouTube channel.
Right,
it's awesome.
Thank you.
This grisette is fantastic, by the way.
I've been meaning to ask you the joke, so that it's good, is it? Lovely.
It's unbelievable. It's got like I gotta ask him what kind of yeast they use for this one, because it's got, do you know what I mean when I say like a Belgian style, like a Belgian yeast? You know when you smell any kind of like Belgian triple or any kind of Belgian like Abbey beer, there's a specific kind of yeasty smell that you get off a beer. We're like, oh, that's a Belgian ale. You know what I mean? It's very specific. It's got that kind of aroma.
Nice.
It's got that. So he must be using Belgian yeast on this, I'd imagine, because Saison's kind of like the Belgian style. So, but you get that, and it's so smooth. It's so drinkable. Really flavorful. Like there's just some citrus, some like lemon, some orange zest on there, but really nice and malty and hoppy too, but so balanced and really just super smooth. I'd imagine Saisons are normally lower in ABVs. I'd imagine. It's hard, home brews, it's always hard to tell unless you do like a test. I don't think they test it, but it tastes like it'd be somewhere around like 4, maybe even a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher, but somewhere in that range. But super good, really sharp bite of a carbonation on it. It's Fantastic beer.
It sounds amazing, and it also looks amazing.
It had like
it
looks
real good.
The head died down now, but it had like a really strong, thick head on it for a long time. There, it had some good head retention. Really, Dave, if you're watching, man, cheers! You did really good. I know he watches some episodes, not all of them, but
cheers to Dave. Send us one to Australia.
Cheers, thanks, Dave. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we need to sample the beer now, Joe. Like you're gonna have to ask him to send beer to the US and Australia.
Yeah, exactly. He keeps asking me to go brew with him, but whenever he does, I'm never free. It's like been such bad luck every time. He'll text me like a day before and be like, "Hey, we're brewing tomorrow afternoon. Can you make it?" It's like, "Oh shit, man, I got play date."
That'd be so interesting.
Or something.
That'd be so interesting to witness, because I don't really have any experience in that, but I'd be very interested to go and watch them do it.
Me too.
From a learning point of view, but also just it'd be so fascinating to see what goes on into making this beer, this drink that we love so much. Yeah, that's definitely something I want to do one time.
I was going to ask, have you ever thought about doing any kind of like brewery tour or anything like that?
Yeah, it's definitely been in the back of my mind. Do a bit of behind the scenes tour of a brewery. Maybe a bit further down the track. I mean, I'd be open to it now, but it's definitely something I'm interested in for sure. That's been on my mind. Doing some sort of brewery tour would be really interesting. It's like when the Craft Beer channel went to the Pilsner Urquell brewery. That video, that was like, oh my god, I want to make that video one day.
I know, right?
That Pilsner Urquell is just one of my favorite beers by far, and
the video you did where you went to that bar where they had it on tap, and that was probably my favorite video that you did. That was just like beer porn. That was straight beer porn. Watching that was like, because the shots that you got of the bartender like behind the bar pouring, and they're like scraping the foam off the top of the glass with the knife. It's like, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Thank you. That so that video was a pretty big turning point for me, I think, because I'd been wanting to get out and do videos like that, but I just didn't know where to start. I thought, do I contact a brewery and say, can I do something like that? Not necessarily a tour, more just like sit in the beer garden, just drink the beer, sample the beer. But I was just a bit nervous. And then, because I work in a bottle shop, and we had this Czech customer come in, and she was asking for Pilsner Urquell. But I said, unfortunately, we don't have it. We've got the Budvar. She was saying it's not the same. I said, it's pretty close. And she was like, no, it's not. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to argue with the Czech lady.
Yeah.
Because then she said she's Czech, and I thought, oh, shit, okay, you would know then.
Yeah.
Anyway, then, she tells me about this bar, and she said there's this Pilsner Urquell on tap and Budvar on tap in a bar in Sydney. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And then she types in the address for me on my phone, and I thought that's going to be where I do my first video where I'm out and about. I thought that's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And going in there, I went there for a beer first to check it all out. And I was looking around going, this is going to be a cool video in here for sure. So I asked them, and I said, though, what's the quietest day I can come? So it was a Tuesday afternoon. I pretty much had the place to myself for most of the video. So
it looked like it, yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
He was cool about it too, the bartender. He really played along, eh? He let you... He
was a legend. They were all legends in there, yeah. I loved it. Yeah, when I got behind the bar, so cool. I was like, I'm really pushing it here, but they're going with it.
I have a quick question just regarding that. I don't know. I know you said you haven't really gone in breweries and other places, but it seems like you started contacting. One thing that we've noticed every time we've contacted both people on YouTube in the beer world, but also the couple of tours that we've done in person, we've always got like great responses, like positive responses, like in the sense of like beer people, as we say, are always very good people. Like they get excited when you're excited about what they do, and they're just happy to. So I just was curious to hear, like, obviously in Australia, if your experience, based on your experience, is that similar or any different? And
yeah, exactly the same. Yeah. Everyone I've asked, they're all for it. Even that one I did recently, where I had that beer out of the can and then on tap where I live, and they're just a bar, not even like a brewery or anything. And when I said I'm just, I make videos about beer, and you've got one of my favorite beers on tap, the guy was just like all over it. Yeah, go for it. Come in, let's go. Like, so yeah, for everyone's awesome. Been, really positive about it.
It's cool, right? I think we haven't had one conversation. We've done a lot of these, and we haven't talked to one person in the beer world where it was uncomfortable where we didn't have anything to talk about, where the conversation didn't flow. It's like we're all on the same energy. And it's so interesting. I can't think. I don't know if Alessandro, you might know. Alessandro's like a wine enthusiast. Let's put it that way. He knows his stuff about wine, and you could tell us if it's kind of the same in the wine world. From what I've seen, maybe not so much in terms of like a common energy like that, like a common thread that links everybody. But beer, it seems like really, if somebody's a beer enthusiast, like even I started a new job kind of ish with a new company recently, and there was one guy on the team who was like, we had a big team meeting and they're like, oh, you got to talk to Brian. Brian really loves beer. Like, oh, okay, cool. And then so I just started chatting with Brian, and we're just like sending novels back and forth to each other, just talking and talking and talking. And it's just another beer guy. We just have everything in the world to talk about. It seems like we're just the same wavelength.
Just fellow beer explorers.
The fellow beer explorers.
That's what
it is.
Exactly. That's what it is. Like, you know, people that like beer have like an innate sense of happiness and wanting to be with people and wanting to share, which it's all about the community in a sense, right? Like, and getting together and talking, which I agree. Like, I think the wine world is hit or miss. It depends. I've had but definitely not the same. It's not the same as the beer world. The beer world is its own thing, and I like that in a sense. What we've been trying to do here, we call it the Beer Brackets Pub. It's just like, it's this virtual place, but it's just like really what it is the people that are in the pub, right? And the willingness to be here and wanting to have a beer together and talk. Like that's all it is. Like the place doesn't really matter. And then obviously like it matters once it comes to where the beer is produced and so on. But it's nice to hear that it's the same in Australia too.
Yeah, exactly the same. When you're saying about the virtual thing you're doing, I love how you were doing that together in COVID. That's that's pretty cool, because I didn't really have anyone to do that with, like in more of like a really talk about the beer. You guys doing that, it's just really awesome. I don't really have any friends that are this obsessed with beer, so
right.
Well, you got two now.
Exactly. This is so cool.
They're hard to find. Good beer friends are hard to find like that. But when you find, like, I have a lot of friends who like to drink beer. They will go out to a pub with you. They'll have a bunch of beers, but they don't talk about the beer. They're not interested in the beer. They don't care about what style it is and where it's from and why this might be better than this. They're just like, oh, is this cheap and tastes good? All right, I'll drink it. Whatever. Don't get me drunk. They don't really care. They don't really care.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of people like that. But people who will appreciate it, the enthusiasts, there's not that many.
Although, so a lot of my friends are like that, except when we go to there's this Irish bar near where we all live, and when we all go there for Guinness, the Guinness chat's really good. Like everyone's really into it, because it's a bit rare to have over here. Although it's definitely growing, the Guinness popularity here. When you go to that little Irish pub, it's called the Snug. Good Guinness. The vibe is really on when we're there together talking about the Guinness, that's for sure. So I love going there.
They pour a good Guinness. It's awesome. Good stuff.
They do. Yeah. I just can't really say how good it is, because I've never been to Ireland, unfortunately. So I'm very, very jealous you two have. Is it definitely better over there?
Oh, man. Yeah. So we did an episode on this where we went over, it's called Is Guinness Really Better in Ireland? And we kind of talked about, we have our own subjective experiences of being there and, thinking that it was better, but we're like, okay, logistically, is this better? Can it be better? How would it be better? And it actually does make sense that it would be better for a couple of reasons. And like, there's the volume of it that they sell. So the kegs are always fresh. The lines are always in constant movement. There's no beer just sitting in the lines. They have more of a tendency there to keep the kegs closer to the actual taps, whereas a lot of bars will have kegs like in the basement with long lines, and that'll affect like the body of the beer. So the closer that it is to the tap, you can get like a thicker sort of effect from the nitrogen.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that a lot of them will do there, where it's either below the bar or it's like in a cellar that's just below where the bar is. So it's not really far off.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's fresher and just handled with a little bit more care. But you do notice a difference, man. The first time you have like a good pint in a pub in Dublin, the atmosphere adds to it, like we are talking about before, the intangibles. But you can taste it. It's different. It's fresher. It's thicker. It's creamier. It's magic, man. It's magic.
Oh yeah. That's another big goal of mine, to get over there and try that.
Boydo in Ireland doing some vlogs, testing some Guinness. That's an epic episode right there, man.
I will watch all of those episodes.
Yeah, you got to do it. Do a whole tour.
Thank you.
Do a whole beer tour of Ireland.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those places. I think if you like Guinness, it should be on your bucket list. Like at least like if not anywhere else, at least in Dublin. But it's worth it because it like Joe said. I think there's the atmosphere. It just like alone, it's just good to begin with. But then you add like if you're a beer enthusiast, then there's all of that addition of the flavor and the creaminess is the best way I can describe it. But and then you go, the thing is that if you remember it, like I have a vague idea. I haven't been in Ireland in a while. Joe has actually been there last year
in
recently.
August.
You know that it's there, and you can tell that it's different, but it kind of fades away a little bit, right? Like, and then you try it again, and it's like, oh my goodness, like, and then you try anything else, and you say, no, it's not the same.
I think it's like freshness, right? Because beer is the type of product where there's some beers that benefit from being cellared and aged, but with beer in general, freshness is key. That makes any beer better, right? Not all beer ages well, and stout is not a beer that in itself will get better with age. So the fresher that you have it. So if you go to like a pub in Sydney or where you live. Sorry, you don't live in Sydney proper, right? Boy, do you live kind of.
No, outside? I do. Yeah. I'm probably about.
Oh, you do? Okay.
About a 15-minute drive from the CBD.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But on the coast.
Yeah. So I mean, if you go to like a bar in Sydney, a random bar that serves Guinness, or if I go to a random bar in Montreal that serves Guinness, or Alessandro in Florida, the odds of them serving as much of that Guinness as they do in a pub in Ireland is just so much.
For sure.
Odds are that keg might have been out for a couple of weeks, or maybe they haven't served one that day yet, or maybe it was a couple of hours since they served one. Yeah. And so. But when you have like a keg that's like they're changing the keg 6-7 times a day, and it's always constant pouring, and it's brewed down the street, so it's a keg that just got driven by a truck 2 kilometers down the road and dropped off at the pub, so it's like super fresh.
Oh, my mouth's watering just thinking about it.
Yeah. I think that alone means it's better, just freshness wise, because beer.
Yeah, makes sense. The worst one I ever had was oh, sorry, you go, Alessandro. I'll get on to that.
No. But let's talk on. I like this. I just had a question, but like, go ahead. Go ahead. You said the worst one you had.
The worst one. I can ask you two this as well. But the worst one I had was at the airport in Dubai. At a bar there.
Oh,
yeah.
Tell us. How was it?
It was just. They poured it minimal head, so it wasn't really creamy.
Oh no.
Just found it to be really watery and flavorless. That was just the worst one I've had. So.
Yeah,
it's disappointing.
It was probably just like sitting in the lines for a while.
Yeah, I'd imagine not many people are getting it there.
Yeah,
there's nothing more disappointing than a bad Guinness.
I know.
No, it is bad Guinnesses. It's so disappointing.
I think for me, since you were asking, the worst one is probably if we exclude the can when the widget fails. That's a huge disappointment. Whenever that happens,
you on that video,
like
yeah, exactly.
It's just like I hate that, but if we exclude that, I think it was probably in a bar. It's not a pub. It was a bar in the surrounding here. I'm not going to necessarily name it. It doesn't matter, but it was just like it was served in a plastic glass, which I don't have a problem with. But then the event was probably didn't call for it. It's fine, so we can pass over that. But the fact that it had no head whatsoever, and it was basically flat, like that was like, okay, you've hit like I could pass the glass but even no head, like and not tasting good like that. At that point, like you've just taken all the magic out of it, and it's just like, okay, just give me a Budweiser and I'm gonna be happier.
Yeah.
Man, my worst was probably I was at a bar when I used to live near Toronto, and I was meeting. Remember, Alessandro knows our mutual friend Dimitri. I was meeting Dimitri at a bar. I hadn't seen him in a long time, so we found this bar in like a suburb, just off the highway that was between like the city I lived in and the town he lived in, or maybe like an hour away. It's like, oh, there's this sports bar that's like the center point on Google Maps. Let's meet there. Just have a beer or two, have some lunch, and go on our way. And we got there. It's like, oh, they have Guinness on tap. And it was a sports bar that was like full of like people gambling on like horse racing and stuff. And I don't think anybody ordered Guinness at this place. Let's put it that way. Because
yeah.
I ordered a Guinness and the guy seemed kind of like, "Oh, we have that?" It's like, "Oh yeah, okay." Like, you kind of had that reaction. Because
Not
on
a
the
good
menu,
sign.
yeah, and I see him like fiddling with the tap a lot. And I see him like dumping something out and then fiddling with the tap and dumping something out. And he comes back and he brings this Guinness and it has like no head. But even though it had no head, it was full of bubbles, like this tiny, like 2 millimeter size head that was just all bubbles. And I was like, that just doesn't look like, it doesn't look like it. I was like, all right, whatever. I was in the moment happy to see my friends. So we cheers and I took a sip and it didn't even taste like Guinness. It was just, it tasted like an ashtray or something. It was just disgusting.
Oh, gross.
The worst thing. It was so nasty. I was just like, this has probably been sitting there in that keg for like 6 months or something. I have
100%.
no idea, but that was by far the worst Guinness I've ever had.
Oh, gross.
See, we should all make a video about that. Like, it's like, what's the worst pint you've ever had?
The worst pint.
Yeah.
So, boy, I can't believe we've been talking for this long, man. But so the standard question we had to ask you is, how did you get started doing your YouTube channel?
I was going to say, yeah.
Oh, that's a great question.
This has all been the introduction to the video up to now. We're just like the warm up now.
Yeah, this
now
is
we're
just
getting
the
started.
Intro. We're starting now. We're here today.
Yeah, the title, the credits are rolling now. The music. Now we're into it. Okay.
So how did it all start? So I'm 34 years old. I've never been.
You're a youngin', little baby.
Never been a big creative.
A little beer baby.
A little beer baby. Oh, yeah. I like that. But yeah, I'm someone who's just never been creative whatsoever. But I don't know. When I hit 30 years old, I just had this urge to start making videos. I think, with the rise of social media, I spend a fair bit of time on YouTube and Instagram and things like that. And I was always just watching videos going, you know what? I'd love to do that. And I think I could do it a bit better in certain ways. I did start another YouTube channel about 2 years ago. I can give you a quick rundown of that one. It's still there. I only did 3 videos. So it was called Boydo's Bush Bash for Trash. And I'd go out into the bush and pick up rubbish. And that's where the concept of that reviewing the beer with the most litter idea came from. Because that's what I used to do with that YouTube channel. I only did 3 videos, but I was mainly on Instagram, uploading reels and stories. And I'd just go out into the bush and pick up rubbish and try and make it a bit funny. But the problem with that was, because I work also as a garbo. I don't know if you call that a bin man where you are, or collecting the rubbish.
Garbage man.
Yeah, so
garbage man. Yeah,
we walk for the whole shift about 6 hours collecting rubbish, and then on my one day off, at the time I was working 6 days. On my one day off, I was going out in the bush to pick up more rubbish and more walking, and it just got too much. So I stopped that, but I was like, I just want to keep making videos, and then I'd been watching beer reviews on YouTube for years, and I always did think, I'd love to do that, but I just don't think I have the beer knowledge to do it. And that was always the setback, was I just don't know enough about beer. I was saying I know nothing about the brewing process. And that was what held me back. But then, I don't know, I thought, you know what? I think my passion and love for beer can get me through. When I did start, I did have the idea of doing what I'm doing now, getting out and doing different things instead of these beer reviews here. Stuff it, I'm going to start it. And I've loved it since I've started, just over a year now. I'm obsessed with it. It's all I think about is my next video. So I'm having a ball with it, yeah. And the best part is I love beer so much. It's the best thing to make videos about. I'll never get sick of that.
Right. Nice. It's so funny, right? You think you need to have like this knowledge of beer. Like I learned everything I know about beer from doing this channel with Alessandro. Like that's doing the research before episodes, learning from him. He had like a good base of knowledge coming into it about all these different styles. And so I knew aside from the fact that I liked beer, I knew extremely, extremely, extremely little, especially about the brewing process and all the different types of hops and everything. I knew nothing about that. So it was fun for me to kind of learn as we went and learn this. Because for these episodes that we'd do, like we'd reviewing a beer, okay, we want to talk about it. I'd do my research before I'd learn about it. Then we'd come and talk about it. And then this is knowledge I have now. And then you do it for a couple of years and you do couple of hundred videos and all of a sudden you have all this knowledge and you can talk about beer and you have all these reference points because you've reviewed all these different styles of beer and then you have people in comments and people talking to you, like looking to you like you're this authority in beer, or that you're somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's cool, right? Yeah, I knew nothing about beer, but I guess what it is just experience, right? It's doing it, trying different things, thinking about it, being critical about the way you think about it, thinking about how you describe it, and that's how everybody learns. That's how anybody learns. So you do it long enough, then you become quote unquote an expert, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about your channel. When you guys do a review or talk about a style of beer, you can tell it's very well prepared. It's well thought out. It's very informative. So I definitely learned a lot watching your channel.
This interview has been great for my ego so far. I think we should bring Boydo on more often.
Yeah, he's being too kind here. Like he's good, like you're it's very, very kind of you to say
very kind,
all these kind words. But if I may, like one thing I wanted to tell you, like you said, which hit a little bit with me, because I understand what you mean by saying, like, I don't know a lot about beer starting, or I didn't know a lot about beer starting. But don't underestimate the fact that your passion and also the way you talk about it is unique, because nobody else is going to talk it the way you talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the story. I think that's the story that it's, at least that's what I love about your videos, is that you can really tell your personality is there.
Yeah.
Right? For us, like some of the beers you reviewed, like we might not know, but the ones that we do know, like it's fun to see. It's like being there with you and experiencing it, right? Like you're saying. And I love when I think you tried the Vitus for the first time on camera.
Yeah.
Right?
Such a good beer.
I loved watching your reaction.
Yeah.
And you were honest about it, right? I said, I've never had it, and I wanted to have this on YouTube, like, and record it and experience it here with you all, right? Like, and to me, that's such a beautiful thing to do, right? Like you're putting yourself out there, and you're really trying to describe it the best you can. But the other flip side of that is now you've done that, and you in say in a year you're gonna go back and look, and you're gonna remember that, and you're gonna have that reference point, to Joe's point, and I think that's awesome, man. Like you're just don't be shy. Like your experience is valuable, and
for sure, Thank you.
If you look at all the biggest channels, like, okay, there's the craft beer channel, but they're their own thing, because they have budget resources. This is their full-time job. They invested into this, so it's more of like a production. It's more of like a documentary style production when they go on site and do these tours and stuff. So that's its own style of thing, because that's big budget. I don't know how big their budget is, but there's production that goes into it. And then there's everything else where it's personality based. And that is everything below them is personality based. There's Simon, there's Dara Curran, the Guinness Guru, and then everybody who's at like 5 to 50, 60,000 subs, all of them, everybody in there. It's not big budget production things where there are these experts that are spewing out the facts. It's personality based, it's conversation based, and that's what gains you the following, unless you have that big shiny flashy budget where you could go out and make these sleek looking documentary. I just got like a thumbs up from Riverside. That's cool.
I was wondering what that was.
So we agree with you, Joe.
Only Joe gets that. I never get that. I don't know why. I really don't know what it is. It just happens.
But oh man, we could talk to you about beer YouTube forever. But man, I want to hear about that Pilsner, because if that's like a favorite of yours, like what about it makes it stand out?
Look, with Pilsners, I do like a real, like more of like a subtle grassiness style. But it's just a bit more earthy. They say on the back here, and this type of thing really, really gets me going, and it really gets in my head, and it probably makes it taste better. But they say, inspired by travels through Europe and crafted with our local soft snow melt water, our Pils has a spicy, earthy aroma of traditional Saaz hops, followed by a malt flavor with a clean and dry finish. The soft snow melt water, I feel like it just tastes fresher. There's something about it. Like it has a real freshness and earthiness to it.
Did you say snow melt water?
Yeah. I mean, hey, it snows there in the winter.
Melted from
snow? Look, that's the thing. It's like, is it just a big talk up to make it sound better? Or, or are they actually using, I mean, they would be using the water that's down there, but There's something about that snow melt water. It just gets in your head, and I'm like, yeah, holy shit, this tastes amazing.
Dude, have you ever heard of Tennent's, the Scottish beer?
Oh, I don't think so.
Tennent's, it's kind of like it's like the big lager in Scotland. It's like a yellow branding with a big red T. I'd never heard of it before, but there's a liquor store in Canada where they started carrying it. I don't remember what episode I had it on, Alessandro. It might have been, I don't think it was a Beer Brackets of the Month. It might have been Alive. But what made this beer, maybe, right, it might have been Alive with Nate. But what got me about this beer was on the can, it said the water was taken from a specific loch in Scotland, and where the brewery was based. And I'm just like, holy shit, I'm sold. I'm sold. And even if it doesn't actually taste better than other lagers, in my mind, it now tastes better because you told me this is water sucked directly from a Scottish loch that may or may not contain a version of the Loch Ness Monster, and you're just like drinking the water directly from there. Yeah. That just sells me on it completely.
Yeah, that would get me. That would get me. I love that.
Yeah. It's so great, right? The water is so important. Like Chimay beers. Like they get their water directly from a well directly below the abbey.
Actually, I didn't know they did that, do they?
Yeah.
I've actually got a Chimay that's been... Right. I've got a Chimay that's been sitting in my room for a while, so I'll think of that when I crack it soon.
Which one? Which color?
The blue one.
Oh, that's the best. The blue's the best. So
it's pretty good. Yeah, it's not often I drink them.
You should do an episode on that, man.
Yeah, well, that's why I originally got it. I was just to do an episode, but it's just kind of, I mean, I guess you guys feel the same thing. There's so many things you want to do, and
so many,
beers just keep getting put in the back burner, and they're in your mind to do, but then something else pops up, and it just keeps getting pushed back.
Not everybody can be Simon from Real Craft Beer Films 6 reviews a day.
Not everybody
could pull that off.
It's crazy that he does that. I don't know how you guys find it, because I'm trying to think, like, what is the ideal amount of videos to do per week without flooding your audience? I've kind of just settled on just one a week.
That's what we do,
especially when you're a newer channel as well. I guess someone like Simon can get away with it with 80,000 subscribers, but do you guys find that too? Just one a week's the sweet spot?
I think we post once a week mostly just out of necessity, because just our style, our videos are edited, like there's editing involved in just the style of videos that we produce.
Very good editing, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's all Joe. But that's all Joe.
Yeah, no,
that takes time.
Just because I edit videos now. Now I really appreciate it more when you watch like your videos, you can tell like there's editing going on here, like especially with you two talking. One of you get bigger, the other gets smaller.
Right. Yeah.
You do different.
So that takes
shots
time.
and definitely.
Yeah. So, but like something like Simon, where it's just like he turns on his phone, records, turns it off, uploads it. That's easier. So you can do one of those a day, right? Or however often you want to post it. So just kind of out of necessity, where it's not our full-time gig in any way, shape, or form. It's just a hobby. So, I mean, we film once a week when we can. We try. Sometimes we skip weeks, and I edit like when my daughter and wife go to bed, like late at night or whatever it is. So I sneak it in whenever I can, and so that works out to averaging out maybe once a week. But I think even if I had more time, I think it would still be once for the style that we do, because our episodes are like 20 minutes long. They're kind of like little podcasts. So you don't want to flood the audience with how much of that can they watch, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's so true. And is it hard for you guys to find a time in the week to do it? Do you have like a set day? You block it out, you're doing it?
Yeah. So what we've been doing this we've switched the day, but usually we always try to have a fixed day during the week. And that's the beer bracket day. And now it's on Thursdays. For some time it was when we first started, it was on Saturday. We've switched it up a couple of times, but we usually have that. And the way I think we both live that session, as we call it, is, well, first and foremost, we hang out. Right, like that's the main goal, and then usually we try to film 1/2 review episodes, not reviews necessarily, and then sometimes when we get bold, we could do 3, like depending on, but usually that's what we try and shoot and do. And a lot of times, because we live in different countries, we have to coordinate a little bit what beers are available.
Yeah,
so a lot of times it's about finding
that would be hard
that we both can find.
Yeah,
that's the challenge.
It is hard, but I would say, I don't know if you agree with this, Joe, but I when we first started, I thought we were gonna have like more problems. We've probably been both
4 years
very
in.
creative. Yeah, I mean, we keep finding things that like, oh, we could do this and that, or we haven't still done this or that. Like, so it's like, I think it's
it also helps that we
just
post
like
once a week and not
process.
every day like a lot of beer reviewers do, right?
Yeah.
So we don't run out of beers as quickly as some others would.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing about
it's
the one a week. That's right. It's a bit hard to run out of ideas because if anything, you got too many ideas.
Yeah.
And to your point, like I think I obviously I don't know, but I find it like for me personally, it's also a way to keep being excited about it because it's almost like an event. So, and obviously it's a little bit different for you because you do it by yourself, but for us it's also like an actual hangout session, right? So it might be, the dynamic might be a little bit different, but for me it's like I look forward, we talk about this all the time, like we look forward to the beer brackets hangout session because we get to hang out first of all, but then oh no, we've been thinking about this episode the whole week and we've been reading about like what can we talk about, and usually we don't have scripts or anything, we have a rough idea, but we always like to improvise because I think one of the concept is capturing the moment, right, the essence, and that's especially true with the reviews. I find like that's a very nice way of capturing what you really feel about it, even if you've had it, right, like it doesn't matter, but you got to be paying attention to what's happening in that moment, and that it can be hard, but the longer you do it, the more fun it gets. So
and the better you get. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
That's what I'm loving about my new style of videos now, getting out and about doing it, because like it's what I'd be doing anyway. So to film it, like it just makes it more fun.
Exactly, right?
Like when I did that video drinking all the bintangs in Bali, like I was going to drink bintangs all afternoon anyway, so why not bring the camera and film a bit?
There you go.
That was so interesting. That's one of the things I love about your channel, like going to Bali and like I'd never heard of bintang before. Like I never knew that was
really
the big beer in Bali. Yeah, and that's just it's not sold here. It's not in Canada. I've never seen it before. Never heard of it before. So to see you do that video is really kind of interesting to see.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Awesome. What about for you both? Have you had any Australian beers that you can think of, or you?
Oh my god! Aside from Foster's, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, so
that's the only one.
And we don't even drink Foster's here. We don't even drink it here.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to tell you another Australian beer aside from Foster's because that's the only one that they would import. Yeah, and it's not even imported anymore. It's like brewed under license in the US. I think the one we get here, it's just not even Australian anymore.
No, so,
I think it's time. We're about an hour.
That was amazing. I'm just going to run to the beer fridge and grab them.
Go ahead, man.
No worries.
Go ahead, man. That's no problem.
How was that extra stout?
Oh, it was delicious, man. Like I actually haven't had that, like I think since last year around this time of year, like leading up to St. Patrick's. So every time I try it, like it always, I always reevaluate it, and it's such a good beer. Such a good beer.
You can't get the West Indies porter, right?
Where was your stout? Was it brewed under license somewhere, or is it from Ireland?
It's brewed in Ireland.
I'd love to try that. Oh, lucky you.
That's one thing about, I will say, here in the US, we get pretty lucky when it comes to some imports, not all, but like on some, like we get actually the the original one. And when it comes to Guinness, like they also have a brewery up in near Baltimore, their Open Gate Brewery. So they do a lot of experimentations there. They haven't recently, I haven't seen many, but a couple of times they've released very unique beers that, mark Guinness, like they're obviously brewed here, so not in Ireland, but still very, very interesting and very well made. So that I can't complain about that being here.
Yeah, nice.
What are you closing your beer brackets with?
I love this.
Look at that.
Technically not closing.
Double bracket.
It's Friday afternoon for me, and I'll be having some more later on. But
that's awesome.
Closing this session, beer brackets, I'm going to do a mix of two beers. This is, it's a bit of an Australian classic. I think more so if you are from the state that I live in, New South Wales. Where do I start with this? So we have, they're both the brand's Tooheys, very famous Australian, well, if you're from the state I'm in, beer. So we've got the Tooheys New, which is a lager,
Okay.
And then we have the Tooheys Old, which is a dark ale. If I would go to the pub with my dad or my grandfather, they would order a Tooheys New with a dash of old, or sometimes a Tooheys 50-50. So
It's
you're
kind of
getting
like a
the
black and
lager.
tan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think today I'll make the 50-50 because I do like a bit more of that darker flavour.
Cool.
And generally when I go to the pub, I'll say, can I just get a Tooheys New with a dash of old, but like a big dash? And
that's so cool.
I thought it'd be a cool one to bring on the channel because I know you two love dark beer.
Love dark beer. Yeah.
2 Aussie classics, and we're going to mix them in the Australian schooner glass that you'd get at a pub.
Hey, that's fantastic. Thank you for bringing this experience here in the Brackets pub. That's amazing.
All good. This schooner glass as well was found out the front of a pub at 4 a.m. when I was doing my garbage run. And I thought, you know what, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll take it home and wash it.
Nice. I love a glass with a story.
What do you guys got?
Yeah, what do you got, Alessandro? What do you got?
Is it my turn again? Okay.
It's your turn again.
I am closing with the beer that we've had before on the channel. We actually reviewed it, but I wanted to feature it again because I wanted to see what Boydo's opinion is, if he's had it or not. If he's heard of it, he might have seen it. But Joe is familiar with this. The Excheck Slinkerla, the Martzen.
Have you ever tried this one?
No, I've never seen that. Wow,
so,
it looks interesting. I love that label.
Yeah.
So
right.
We have an interview episode on our channel with the owner of that brewery, Matthias Trum, was a 6th generation owner of that brewery. It's in Bamberg, Germany, in this old medieval building that's been there. And they've been brewing beer. So they're the originators of smoked beer. It's kind of like one of the oldest ways of brewing beer. And so they would burn beech wood and smoke the malts in-house. And they still do it. They still actually burn the wood and smoke the malts. And so their beer all has like this fresh, smoky, like campfire smell flavor to it. It's amazing.
Oh, geez, that sounds so good. I'll have to go and watch that episode. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's a super interesting guy. Really, it was good. Yeah, we talk about this in some episodes that we do where we open and close our beer brackets. We talk about how there's like a common beer. We never talk about the beers that we're bringing. How there's a common beer thread.
I love that. So I've heard you say it before. I love how you do that. Such a surprise.
Yeah. It's always a surprise, and it's legit. We never talk. It's because it's fun.
Yeah, we
That's
don't talk about the beers.
It's awesome.
But there's always a connection. There's something about the beer telepathy where it's always a connection. And so that's so funny that you brought a smoked beer, because I'm drinking the second beer that my friend Dave made for me, and it's a smoked ale. And that's so funny that you brought a smoked beer. That
is funny.
It just lines
up. It's like you two are on this
same
beer wavelength, and
we are.
Yeah.
It just happens all the time.
So obviously he's not smoking his own malt. They buy in the malt pre-smoked, like a lot of breweries do, unfortunately, because it's just the logistics of smoking malt on site in a brewery is kind of a nightmare, I would imagine. So most breweries, most of the time if you go to a microbrewery, and they're becoming fashionable now, actually, they're called Rauch beers, Rauchbier. A lot of microbreweries will have them now. It's kind of in fashion in 2025 now.
Yeah, I don't know if I've really seen that here in Australia yet.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will eventually.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. All right, let's get these open.
All right, let's do it.
Do you go by Boyd or is it Boydo all the time?
A bit of both.
Bit of both?
Yeah, whatever you're feeling.
So
I guess depends how many beers you're in.
How
right?
many beers?
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm going for the 50-50 mix here.
Oh, look at that. So while you're doing that, I need to ask you, this came up before, but we did an episode where we were talking about if we owned a pub, what 3 beers we would have on tap. If we had like a home pub, I need to know, if you had a home pub or you owned a pub, whatever it is, and you had to choose 3 beers to have on tap, what would they be?
Oh my God. That is one of the best questions ever, but one of the hardest questions ever.
I know, it's so hard. It's so hard.
It is. Well, take a sip of the beer first.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my God, Dave. You hit it out of the park, Dave. Oh my God, 2 in a row.
That's amazing.
Shit.
I wish you could both try this.
I love that. I love even I've always been fascinated by black and tans. I actually got like this was like a little tool that you would use. I don't know if they use them actually in pubs, kind of like a little filter that rests on the top of the pint glass. So when you pour the dark beer over, it kind of just spreads it out almost, and it just levels, like it separates it better.
Them separated, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't think it's necessary or anything. It's just
a
beer tool. But I've always enjoyed a good black and tan or dark and light, whatever you call it. Yeah.
I'm just curious, Boydo, if you don't mind, before you answer the question, I'll give you a little bit extra time maybe, but can you describe, how would you describe the one you're having, like in terms of taste and compared to others you've had, like, because I'm very fascinated by that mix.
Well, this is really the only mix I've ever had, apart from the check cut, which I had in that other video I did. I just like it because it's like a real light, easy drinking dark beer. Like you're still getting like subtle hints of like chocolate and coffee, but the lager, like, I guess, waters it down a bit, essentially. Waters it down is probably not the right way, but I guess a bit more light malt flavour. It's just like a good balance. But I really love, what I love about dark beers is that, like, chocolatey coffee taste. But with this, it's just so much easy drinking, especially on a hot day like today here in Sydney. You're still getting those flavours, but it's not as intense.
So jealous.
Well described. It makes me want to have one now.
Have you ever had Negro Modelo?
Yes, I have had one of them. Yeah.
What'd you think?
I honestly can't remember. I had it about 4 years ago, and I only had one of them. I just remember enjoying it, but I can't remember the flavor profile at all.
Yeah, it's not very it's not super memorable, let's say, but it's really good. It's just like a very delicious, well done, sessionable dark beer with good flavor, well balanced, super easy drinking. It's just if you ever see it on the shelves, it's worth picking up. Like here, just having it as an option in grocery stores is just so great, because if you want something that's dark but light, you know what I mean, it gives you like those dark characteristics, but it's still kind of like have a light.
I reckon that's what this mix would be like then. Yeah, you're getting those dark flavors, but it's light enough where it's not, it's not going to be your closing beer. This is more of a sessionable beer.
Right.
So talk about the flavors of your beer, and then I'll get on to my 3 pub beers.
He's trying to buy more time. That's what he's trying to think about.
Yeah, we'll give. That's fair. It's a very hard question. Like
it is. It's true.
We're putting him on the spot here, so
that's right.
We owe him a little bit of time.
So can you hold it up a bit? I want to see the color.
Yeah, absolutely. So the head unfortunately died up a little bit, but it's
that beer's not about dark. The head, right?
Yeah.
No. It's incredibly rich. The best way to describe it, if you've never had a Rausch beer, is imagine like a stout, but instead of having those chocolate notes in the end and coffee notes, you get this smoky finish, the same type of smoky finish that you get like if you're having like a smoked brisket, like, or some type of meat. That aftertaste comes across, and then you get this like strong like campfire. It's almost like Joe described, like sitting by a campfire, and you get those like smoky notes. But the beauty of it is that you have this malt that carries along all those flavors, and then the smoke just like dances around all of it, and you have this like very rich presence all across.
It's very bacony too.
Yeah, bacony is also a good descriptor.
So very savory, meaty, and smoky. It's like
it's an experience, and I would definitely. This is a beer that you would have with food, probably, if you're pairing it with something, or as a closing beer. Because like after this, going back to anything else is kind of like difficult, because you don't taste anything after this.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds amazing. You're very good at describing that.
Thank you. It's
I feel like I can almost taste it.
Just, well, I'm glad. They obviously have been around for quite a bit, since the 1400s, so they know what they're doing. But there's a lot of breweries that are have started like picking up on the style and are making them. At least here in the US, like it's pretty popular. And from what Joe was saying, it's in Canada as well. So
every microbrewery has a Rausch beer now.
Yeah. Keep your eyes out. Like if it's not this one necessarily, a smoked beer is something that I would recommend to try at some point in your beer exploration, because it's opening up another dimension.
Yeah, it's a completely different classification. Yeah,
it's very, very interesting.
Lovely.
This one's really interesting, man. It's like not every smoked beer I've had has been dark. This one is very hazy, very light. It's almost like it's got some wheat beer characteristics to it. It's almost like a smoky wheat beer. Yeah. So it's got the body of a wheat beer. It's got that kind
Looks like it, yeah.
Estery, sort of like banana, sort of bubblegummy kind of weedy flavor to it, which is really nice. But it's got like this, you smell it. You smell the smokiness, like just like that campfire smell. And on the finish, it's just like a very slight smokiness. I've never had a smoke beer like this before. This is incredible, Dave. God, I got to invest in Dave's brewery.
You should, man. You should.
These guys, maybe I should go into business with them. My God, man.
Yeah.
To Dave.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
there you go.
Dave.
Cheers.
Well, you're
Cheers,
definitely
Dave.
good at. You could be the salesman for his beer. Jeez, I want.
Oh, dude,
right
I could. This has been my dream, Boydo. You have no idea. Like I think everybody who likes beer, I think, is once upon a time dreamed of opening a bar. And yes, I'm leading into the question. I'm not letting it back. But I always think of the logistics of that. Like, oh my God, man, I would love to have a pub. Like, I would love to open a pub like in Montreal here where I live one day, and but then the logistics of like running a restaurant and like, you know, the hospitality side of it. And you think about all that side, it's like that maybe is not so appealing, but the romantic side of me about maybe opening a microbrewery and having that is just like, it's kind of the dream a little bit.
Yeah.
If I could just come in as like an investor.
That's right.
Have it in place already where a lot of the work is done, but I can sort of step in and give some input and just drink free beer, you know, like
exactly. Have your finger in the pie to some degree. I like that.
That's right.
Not the full responsibility.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so what are your 3 beers you would have on tap?
Oh, all right. So we'll start with an Australian one, which is pretty much my go-to tap beer if I go to a pub here in Australia. And I actually got the beer mat for it. It is Carlton.
Look at that.
Carlton Draft.
Carlton Draft. Okay.
Okay. So that is. I should have the beer mat facing you guys actually. Pretty popular beer here in Australia. Not brewed in New South Wales, our state. It's down from you're of Melbourne down.
Yep.
In Victoria. Yeah, so it's from down there, but it's just a real easy drinking lager. But it's got like a nice like bready malty flavor to it.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I just feel like out of all the big time Australian beers on tap, it's just got this bit more of a breadiness to it.
A little bit more character and flavor to it.
Yeah, a little bit more, but still so easy drinking, so sessionable. Yeah, it's just an amazing Australian beer off tap.
That sounds great.
So that would be one. Number 2, I think I'm going to have to say, I know you guys have said it, Guinness. You just need that.
Good choice.
You need that easy drinking stout on tap. Like
you do. You really do, right?
You can drink them all night. There's something about them. And you need that option for when, you know, it's not always hot like this in Australia. We do have winter afternoons and evenings where it's all grey and you just want that Guinness. It's just perfect. And then number 3, I'm a big time fan of European lagers, and this is a very, very. I'm tossing up between. You're probably not going to agree with my answer, but
no. What is it?
I'm tossing up between Pilsner Urquell and Peroni Nastro Zero, but has to be brewed in Italy.
Hey,
I'm going to go with the Peroni.
You're talking to an Italian over there.
I know.
You're making his day. You're making his day.
It's a hard one between.
That's awesome.
Pilsner Urquell and Peroni, but
that's interesting. I've never met like a big. I enjoy Peroni. Like I think it's especially. I don't remember specifically like when I went to go see you in Italy, Alessandro. We drank some Peroni. I don't remember it specifically compared to like the locally brewed under license one I have here, but it's a totally fine Pilsner.
Yeah,
it's great
for a big time mass produced lager.
Yeah.
The one they have a version here in Australia that is pretty much all we get, and it's not that great. It's drinkable. I do enjoy it, but it's not going to be my go-to. But when I get some bottle shops do sell the Italian brewed, and we used to only get the Italian brewed for years. It's only been brewed under license, I think, for about 3 years. So I've always loved it. And when I go traveling overseas, you get the Italian brewed stuff, and there's just something about that beer. It's just one of my favorite beers. And
have you
to
ever
have that
tried
on
Moretti?
tap, I have. I do love the Moretti. but I do like the Peroni
So we
better.
did a versus episode where we compared the two, and Moretti came out on top. We found out we preferred that one.
Right. But the Moretti is amazing. So
it's just a little bit maltier. It's got a little bit more character to it. Peroni's like an easy drinking, sort of like hoppy, crisp pilsner, right? Which serves its purpose. It is.
Yeah.
That kind of beer is what it is. Everybody knows what it is, what to expect. It's great. But yeah, we like in the VS battle next to, one against one, we kind of preferred the character and the maltiness of the Moretti a little bit more. But yeah, they're both great. Both good beers.
Yeah. What was your three again? I know you both had Guinness, and one of you had Pilsner Urquell. Did both of you have Pilsner Urquell?
No, I had.
I did.
Joe did. If I remember correctly, I picked the Guinness. I had the Pale Ale, and Pale Ale from Sierra Nevada.
Oh yeah,
which is
nice
beer.
We do get that here.
And then I actually picked.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's
such a good beer.
Go-to of mine.
Beer.
And then the third one was actually not this one. This is the Marzen, which is the lighter version of the Urbach. The Urbach is the same beer as this. It's just produced with double the amount of malt, so it's heavier and richer. I picked those. It was a tough question.
It's very tough.
It is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. And I'm even starting to think
really
now.
hard.
I didn't even think of German beer in my whole answer. Like a Munich Helles would just be amazing. Even a Weiss beer.
God, right?
It is one of the toughest questions you can ever ask, actually.
See, one of my beers was the Paulaner Weiss beer. So like that
rings a bell. You did say that. That's a great option. Yeah.
So because I was like, I wanted to have like a stout, a Weiss beer, and a lager. Those are my three. And I thought like, if you have a mix of those three things, you can cover all bases, whatever mood you're in, whatever you're feeling like.
Yeah, I love that.
And,
there's I've just found out there's a place in Sydney that does the Paulaner Weiss beer on tap.
Oh my god!
We do have a few.
Go and you got to film it.
We do have a few. We do have a few like German bars, but they're not really authentic. They're very in the city and just packed. They do have the different Weiss beers. It'd be too hard to do a video, but I found out about this other place that has it, like a smaller pub on the other side of Sydney. And that is, I'm going to go there soon and do a video. Actually, I wanted to go a couple of weeks ago, and lucky I checked just before I left. They were closed during the Christmas break. I couldn't do it, but
wow,
that's coming soon. The videos, finding Paulaner Weiss beer on tap in Sydney. That's all I know so far. I'll just roll with it. Yeah,
I'm excited for that one. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah. Because I love that Weiss beer.
So good. We gave it a perfect score, and the review that we gave it, we loved it. It was just the quintessential Weiss beer. Like it's just blows your mind how good it is every time.
You said the Peroni and the Nastro Azzurro. I'm curious. You said that up until like 3 years ago, it was brewed in Italy.
Yeah.
Since it seems to be a beer that is clearly like you have good memories with. It's very interesting that you named that. Like, and I can definitely think of episodes like in Italy. It's like, oh, it's like I'm having it with friends or with pizza or whatever the situation might be. But what about you?
I was in Italy, I think 2 years ago, and I do have very fond memories of drinking it there. But I think for me, it just dates back to so in my late teens and early 20s here in Australia, you just drink Australian lager if you're a young bloke.
Yeah.
And then I remember in like my early 20s trying Peroni and just being, and even Stella Artois, and just being like, wow, these European ones they've just got this different bitterness to them, a bit more hop flavor going on, but not too hoppy, very subtle, just more of a good kick to them, Yeah, that's kind of where it all stemmed from. And then, just unfortunately, they started brewing it here in Australia, and it's just kind of, I don't get it. So when I do get it now, it's even more special.
I'd like to ask you about that because I have a strong opinion about this and this whole brewed under license phenomenon that's been happening more and more.
Yeah.
It really bugs me because as somebody who appreciates beer, we call ourselves beer explorers, like it sucks when I see a beer on the shelves here that is something that I've always wanted to try, but it's brewed by a terrible brewery in Canada here that I know does not brew good beer, and they're brewing it under license. And so I know it's not going to be the same version of the beer that I wanted to try. Like, for example, here in Canada, Munich beers like Spaten and Lowenbrau are brewed by Labatt that makes Labatt Blue. I don't know if that.
No, is that a Canadian beer brand?
It's a Canadian beer brand that's kind of like exported to Europe a little bit into the US, but they're just like, they make big brand beers, and it's like, it's okay. It's like if you go to a bar, if you go to like a restaurant here, like they're just everywhere. They're in every corner store, and it's just like a standard sort of like big brand lager. It's not great, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like a Budweiser. It's like whatever else. And so they brew a lot of these Munich lagers, but they just don't have the finesse. They don't have the skill, the care to brew these beers as they should be.
Yeah.
And so if I wanted to try a Spaten or a Lowenbrau, like I can't basically, because it's going to be brewed by this company Labatt that I know brews beer that I just don't like. And even I don't. It's so disappointing, and I understand the logistics of it, because shipping, importing, there's a cost there. There's environmental concerns involved in shipping like bottles across the ocean and everything, like, you know, reducing your carbon footprint. I totally understand, and that makes sense. But as a beer drinker, it freaking sucks.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst, and it's the worst when you go into the bottle shop for the first time and you know there's something different about the label, or there's something off, and you pick it up and you turn it around and it says brewed under license in Australia, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe it, they've ruined it.
They've ruined it. Exactly.
It just recently happened. I did a video on it. I'm not sure if you saw it, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. It happened here with Guinness. That's one, but the worst one was
oh, that sucks with Guinness.
Yeah, it's not the same anymore. That's ruined. But
don't mess with the Guinness. Don't mess with the Guinness. That's the one.
But the Asahi, so the Asahi we get in here in Australia, the bottles are brewed under license, and they're terrible. One of the worst beers ever. But the 500ml cans, the 500ml cans were always getting shipped in from Japan. And just recently, now the cans are brewed here in Australia, and they're ruined. It's one of the worst brewed under license beers is the Asahi here in Australia. It is just, it's terrible. Because Asahi, the proper Asahi, is a beautiful beer, like amazing.
I can't get Japanese brewed beers anymore. The Sapporo's brewed in Canada, and it's terrible. And Asahi's brewed in Italy, and I actually really liked it. When we reviewed it, it was like it was really nice. But that's the Italian brewed one.
Yeah, that is strange.
The beer world is ever changing, but it's fascinating having this conversation because we live like so far away, like it's
other sides of the planet, literally. Like.
We're really like so this is very fascinating. But I do have a question specifically. I'm very curious about, like, you told us a little bit how you started the channel, how you decided to start the channel, but speaking about your personal beer history or story, like how did you get into beer, and why has it become such a passion for you?
You said you work in a bottle shop. That must be
that's come on in the last year, just as like a side, just to earn a bit of extra money. That hasn't really played a part, although I do love working in the bottle shop. The vibe in there is so good. Everyone's happy, they're buying alcohol, so it's the best job.
Exactly.
But
that's it.
I've always loved beer. Like the first time I ever had a sip, loved it. Didn't have to get into it. Just the first sip, I was like, I love this. And then I think it was what really sparked my love for it was traveling, specifically to Europe. I lived in the French Alps in France for 9 months. I did a winter season over there because I love snowboarding.
Okay.
And just
nice.
Drinking all the European beer over there, I just really, really fell in love with it. But then when I came back to Australia, I started having the Australian beers and just realized how much I miss them too and how much I love them.
Yeah.
And it just sparked this thing for, like, there's something about beer, like for example, if you drink like a bottle of a Spanish brewed Estrella, I don't know, it makes me feel like I'm kind of in Spain, or it brings back when I was in Spain, or
we talk about this all the time.
It's
all
just
the time.
I think travel has definitely made
traveling.
me appreciate it more. Because I come back and I find that bottle of Italian brewed Peroni. It takes me back to when I was on the beach in Italy. I think it's the flavors just bring you to where it was from, and that's probably why I really love, my thing is European lagers. They just take me over there. And it's the same thing when I come back to Australia and I drink the Australian stuff. I'm like, this is just like what I've been drinking since I was 18, and it's just brings back those memories and feelings. And
beautiful. I see. Look, he just told us his beer memories right there.
I know. Yeah, his precious beer memories.
That's great. Like I don't know. Like, I think I'll let Joe chime in here in a second. But from my point of view, I think it's fascinating always to see how a beer enthusiast, like, or explorer as we call them, or we call us, you always like find an appreciation, a new appreciation for the beverage the more you travel and the more you explore, right?
Yeah.
Because the more you explore, the more you realize, oh, I thought I knew something, but there's always more. And that makes it so exciting and interesting. And I think in beer in particular, because there's such a nice community and it's so easy to talk to people when you find people that have common interests, it just like adds. So it's just like, to your point, like, it's not only the memories, it's the experiences, it's the sharing, it's all of this, like, which makes it so special. I don't know what Joe thinks about it, but
yeah, I mean, it's funny when you said, like, it's like it's almost like traveling, and we've talked about this a lot before too. The beauty of beer is that because it's made with water from, and that's another thing about the brewed under license that gets me a little bit, because part of the beauty of beer for me is trying a beer from a specific abbey in Belgium, trying a beer from a certain city in Munich where the water is from there, right? It's not only brewed there, the ingredients are from there, the water is from there, like everything is from this place that has this tradition of brewing. There's a history to it. And when you're drinking it, it's like you're being transported to that place.
Exactly.
And so that's one of the things that aggravates me about the brewed under license. It's like, why would I want to drink a Munich lager that's brewed near my house? Like, what do I care? It's just a beer. It's just a regular beer at that point. It's not a Munich lager anymore, right? But yeah, beer is a beautiful thing in that sense. And especially, you said you really appreciate European lagers. So do we, because there's such a care that's put into it. German lagers, Czech lagers, there's such a history there to the brewing. And you can taste it, and you can really appreciate, like, when you look into the history of the brands and the histories of the breweries and how long that brand has been established. And it's part of it. It's part of the experience. And the beauty of beer is that so much of it is kind of like ethereal. It's kind of like it's like the stories, the intangibles that build the experience. And while you're 100%, like we're talking about, like the well water or whatever it is, it's like, it makes it worth it. Or the snow, it's the snow water.
Snow melt water, exactly.
Yeah, man. So I'm all about that. I think beer is a beautiful way to kind of learn about history, but also in a way travel. And every episode that we film where we drink an import and we review an import, you're learning about it, and as we're tasting it, I feel like I'm there, and it's a beautiful thing.
100%. Yeah, it's like when if I book a holiday now, like, the first thing I'm thinking about is I can't wait to try the local beer. It's like, that's my first thing I'm doing when I get there. I'm going to the bottle shops or generally a supermarket, and I just want to see what do they get over here and what's local, and it just excites me so much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. Totally. I was we did an episode recently. I think it was one of our Beer Explorer episodes, where I was talking about how I was in Ireland in August, and it was so much fun for me to be in this little town in rural Ireland. And I went to a bottle shop, and just to see what they had, just to walk into the shop and see, okay, what are they going to have on the shelf here in this little town in, like, buttfuck nowhere in the middle of Ireland, the Irish countryside. And what are they going to have on the shelf? And they just happen to have the most majestic selection of, like, European imports, and, like, it was beautiful. Like, all the beers that they had, it was spectacular.
But it's such a good moment feeling
of excitement, right? It's kind of like people who like collectors. I think it's the same kind of thing. People who collect, like, trading cards, people who collect whatever it might be. I know people who are, like, vintage video game collectors, like retro game collectors, and they go to conferences, and you walk into the conference and you're like, oh, what's this booth going to have? Am I going to find, like, a good treasure, right? When you're beer shopping, it's like, what beer treasure am I going to find? Is going to be some
beer treasure,
some import that's, like, I've never seen before, that I've heard about. You see it on the shelf. It's like, this is great.
Yeah, and, like, the excitement. This. Yeah, like going back to the Vine Stefana Vitus. I remember when I found that in that bottle shop, it was just like, all my Christmas is coming at once. I couldn't believe I was seeing it, because I'd seen it on other beer reviewers' YouTube channels, and we just don't get it here. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, yes, this is, like, such a rare find.
Yeah.
Such a good feeling.
No.
I know, man. I know. Dude, I think we're going to have you back, because we're at like an hour and a half here. We're going long, so we might have to wrap it up. You know what?
We could talk all day,
we could talk all day, man. We're gonna have you back for a part 2. We're definitely gonna do that.
Definitely, because I definitely have had a few more questions in mind for you guys. And just quickly, there's one other thing before we go. I was watching that you did the 5 worst beers you had of last year. another great, clever episode. I love that. The Pabst Blue Ribbon. I remember seeing it. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you can think of this scene on that Clint Eastwood film, Gran Torino, I think. Have you seen
Gran Torino? He was drinking Pabst.
Yeah,
you're
right. And this is a whole other thing we should talk about next time is best beer scenes or that make in movies that make you want to drink beer, because I remember seeing that and the way he's drinking them on his little porch. There's something about it. I was like, I need to have that beer. It looks. It's not even that. It's not even that beautiful. It's just a can of Pabst Blue Ribbon. But I think it's because it's so foreign to me. We don't get that in Australia. And watching that, I was like, I cannot wait to try that beer. And then I remember getting it. It does come into bottle shops in Australia every now and then over the years.
Yeah.
And it's always like such a novelty to hold the can. But I crack it and I drink it, and I'm like, it's just not. It's not giving me what I want.
It's just not that good.
I love how you knew the scene I was talking about from Gran Torino. That's awesome.
That's such a good movie.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic movie. I know exactly that scene that you're referring to when he's sitting there. Like it's just like so.
There's
iconic.
A lot of like gifs about that scene too. Like
yeah.
He
so
goes
good.
with his.
Yeah, that's an interesting beer. I think it's just a very. A lot of those macro lagers, especially the American macro lagers, are very, say, adjunct heavy. Like there's just a lot of processed extra ingredients in there. And that one I find is just very obvious. I find it's kind of harsh a little bit and
a bit rough. Yeah.
I don't feel good after I drink one of them. It just doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't feel like something that I should be putting into my body. Let's put it that way. That's always the reaction I've gotten from it.
I think with that, and I don't know, like maybe for me it's a little bit different, but I think for you, Joe, like you had also a lot of not a lot, but a few experiences with it during younger years.
Yeah.
While for me coming here more recently, it's like I approached it and say, sure, it's not the greatest beer, but also like maybe it's not. I've never had like any negative connotation with it necessarily, aside from obviously being what it is. Like it's not anything mind-blowing, but I don't know, it's still not the Bush.
Oh man, have you ever had Bush?
Haven't had it.
It's rough. It's rough.
If you do not pour it in a glass.
Ice cold, as cold, like almost frozen, like slushy, like kind of. And that cold, straight out of the can, drink it in like as quick as you can before it warms up a little bit. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
You don't want to pour it in the glass.
Yeah. I find that you can get pretty much any beer to a certain, almost before it's going to be freezing temperature, and it just tastes like cold. Like that's exactly. It's great. So that's one of those types of beers then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely one of those.
Man, cool. This was incredible, man. And look, dude, it was so nice meeting you. And we will do another one of these. We're gonna have to do a part 2 because we still barely cracked the surface of talking about beer.
I feel the same.
There's so much more we got to talk about. And
I feel the same. This has been so enjoyable, by the way. This is the type of thing I like doing. I love it. Even though I've never done it before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much fun.
Well, now you have.
Yeah.
Now you have.
Now you can have other people on your channel too. And you can have an episode where you have us on.
Yeah.
And we're a guest on your channel. We can do that.
For sure. It's a good idea in the future. Yeah. I think, I don't think this will be the last with us three. It's
not at all. It's not even close,
so
man.
good.
Not even close. We're going to talk a lot more for sure.
Yeah. So much more to discuss.
Dude, thanks. So we haven't even scratched the surface. Seriously, there's so much more to talk about.
This is the first hangout session. It's like we got to know each other, and now we're gonna get serious in the next one.
Yeah. Get down to real deep beer topics.
And now I just get to think about what beers I'm bringing on next time because I got a bit more time to ponder that. It's
That's the fun part. That's the fun part of it.
Yeah, man. We still learned barely anything about you and your background and who you are. We just it's so funny, right? Like we're basically strangers who know so little about each other, like personally, but we've just been talking about beer for 2 hours, like kind of nonstop. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good, man. It's so good. Well, I thank you so much for coming on, man. We really, really appreciate it. We will have you back. And,
thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully Boydo will be on the channel much more. If you haven't, we'll put a link to his channel down in the description down below if you haven't seen it yet. So go check it out. Give him a subscribe. Check out his videos. It's awesome stuff. You will really, really enjoy it. I'm sure you will. But yeah, support good old Boydo here and give him a subscribe. Yeah. And dude, thank you again for gracing the Beer Brackets Pub and joining us.
I appreciate it. This has been so much fun. You don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Don't forget to close your beer brackets.
There you go. Yeah, I knew he was going to say it. I knew he was going to say it.
Woo!
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.